Welcome back. I am Milo, and this started when I was 22. I work in aviation safety certification in Huntsville, which sounds a lot more dramatic than it usually is. Most days I am buried in compliance documents, checking details that most people would never notice unless something went wrong. It is careful work, quiet work, the kind of job where one missed signature can delay an entire certification process and make a lot of very serious people very unhappy. I like that life. I like the structure of it. I like knowing that if I did my job well, nobody would ever have to think about me at all. Naomi worked in facilities management in the same building. Different floor, different world, but we kept running into each other in the lobby, at the coffee station, in the parking deck. All those small places where people pretend they are not looking for connection. She was easy to talk to, funny in a sharp, observant way, the kind of person who could turn a boring Monday into something bearable just by making a face at the right moment. At first, I thought we were just becoming friends. Real friends. The kind who do not keep score every time they help each other. When my car broke down, she helped. When her apartment had a pipe burst, I helped. When she needed a ride, I gave it. When I needed someone to talk to, she was there. It felt balanced. It felt natural, and because it felt natural, I trusted it. I was not sitting around waiting for Naomi to notice me. I had my own life. I was doing the motorcycle course on weekends, going to the gym, hanging out with my roommate Scott, and trying to build a future that looked stable and decent. Naomi was part of that life, but not the center of it. That mattered to me. I never wanted to be the kind of guy who made one person his whole world. And honestly, I thought everything was fine. I really did. Looking back now, the first warning signs were already there, but they were wrapped in enough warmth to make me excuse them. Naomi never fully closed the door when I asked her out after about 8 months. We were walking through Big Spring Park after lunch, and I told her directly that I liked her as more than a friend. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that felt careful. She said she valued our friendship, that she was not in the right place for dating, that her ex was still in the picture emotionally even though he had moved away. She did not want to ruin what we had by forcing something she was not ready for. I accepted that. I really did. If someone tells you they are not available, you respect it. That was my thinking, so I backed off. I treated her like a friend, because that was what she said she wanted. But the strange thing was, the friendship never settled into something clean. It stayed blurry. Naomi still called late at night when some guy she was seeing had disappointed her. She still showed up at my apartment to watch movies and fall asleep on my shoulder. She still sent messages that felt a little too warm to be casual, a little too intimate to be nothing. I remember one night when she hugged me at the door for so long that I stopped breathing normally. Then she texted me, "I love that I can always count on you," with a heart emoji. Another time, she brought me to a coworker's wedding as her plus one, and when someone asked if we were together, she laughed and said, "Not yet, but who knows what the future holds." She said it like a joke, but she squeezed my arm when she said it. That detail matters. Remember it. I did notice. I just did not know what to do with it. I told myself she was confused. I told myself she liked the attention but did not know how to say so. I told myself that if I stayed patient, things would sort themselves out. Looking back now, I should have seen it coming. By the second year, I had started dating other people. Nothing serious, just normal attempts at moving on. Every time I mentioned a woman I was seeing, Naomi had an opinion. The first one was shallow. The second one was weird. The third one was not serious enough. She always framed it like she was protecting me, but I noticed the pattern. Any woman I showed interest in suddenly had a flaw Naomi could see from a mile away. Then there were the timing games. If I had plans with someone else, Naomi would suddenly need help with something right at the same time. A work crisis, a car issue, a random emotional emergency. Sometimes I would still help her, sometimes I would not. But the pattern was there. She wanted to stay important. She wanted access. She wanted me available even if she did not want me in the way I wanted her. One night, after a short breakup with a woman I had been seeing, Naomi came over with ice cream and sat with me for hours. She took my hands and told me I was going to make someone incredibly happy someday. Then she said she hoped whoever that woman was understood how lucky she would be. After a long pause, she looked right at me and said she just wanted me in her life no matter what happened. Promise me. I told her I was not going anywhere, but I could not promise forever. That answer changed the mood instantly, even if she tried to hide it. She said, "That is fair," in a tone that made it obvious she did not think it was fair at all. Looking back, that was the moment I should have understood the shape of the problem. She did not want a friendship. She wanted a guarantee. Scott was the one who finally said what I had been avoiding. He worked in cybersecurity, and he had a habit of cutting through emotional nonsense with brutal accuracy. One night, after Naomi asked me to help move a couch while she was dating someone else, I told Scott about it. He asked me a simple question. When was the last time she did anything for me that was not convenient for her? I could not answer. He did not even look surprised. He said I was not a friend to her anymore. I was a resource she managed. That hit me hard because it was true. He pointed out how she always seemed to appear when I was trying to move on, how she went cold when I dated someone new, how she expected me to be available for her problems but never seemed to make room for mine. He had even counted the texts. Most of them were her asking for something or venting about a guy. The rest were replies to me. That was the moment I started pulling back, not dramatically, just enough to see what would happen if I stopped being endlessly available. I answered slower, I said no more often. I stopped volunteering. I stopped rearranging my life around her schedule, and almost immediately she noticed. Then I met Ruby. Ruby worked for another contractor, and I met her at a safety conference. She spilled coffee on my laptop bag, apologized like she had committed a crime, and insisted on buying me a replacement even though the bag was basically worthless. We got coffee 2 days later, then dinner, then another dinner, then something real. Ruby was direct, funny, and impossible to fake around. She said what she meant. If my shirt was inside out, she told me. If something was bothering her, she said so. She did not play games, and after years of trying to decode Naomi, that felt like breathing clean air. I was happy, actually happy, and I made the mistake of assuming Naomi would be happy for me too. When I mentioned Ruby over lunch, Naomi got quiet in a way that made the air feel thinner. She told me to be careful, said I fell fast, said she did not want to see me get hurt again. It was a strange thing to say because I had not been hurt by some dramatic disaster. I had just dated a few people who did not work out, but Naomi kept pushing. She wanted to meet Ruby. She said it was important that she approved of whoever I was seeing. That sentence should have set off alarms. Instead, I told myself she was just being protective. Ruby agreed to a coffee with both of us, and I could feel the tension almost immediately. Naomi asked questions that sounded polite but felt invasive. Where Ruby worked, how long she had been in Huntsville, whether she planned to stay. It did not feel like a conversation. It felt like an interview for a role Ruby had never asked to fill. Afterward, Ruby was quiet for a few blocks. Then she said Naomi looked at me like I belonged to her. I laughed it off. I said Naomi was just intense. Ruby did not argue, but she did not believe me either. Looking back now, I should have listened to her sooner, but at the time, I had no idea how far this would go. The pressure started small. Naomi wanted one-on-one time again, but always at moments she knew I was with Ruby. She would text me right before plans, acting hurt that I was less available. "You never used to be this unavailable," she wrote once. "It is like you do not have time for your actual friends anymore." I almost replied with something honest, something about how I had not changed. I had just stopped being available around the clock for someone who only noticed me when it suited her. But I deleted it. I knew better than to hand her a line she could twist later. Then came the fake emergencies. A late-night call that turned out to be a fight with her mom, a dead battery on a Saturday night when I was with Ruby, a voicemail that sounded shaky and urgent, only for her to answer normally when I called back. Every time she was testing the same thing, how quickly I would come running. Every time I gave less. That is when she started showing up in person. Ruby and I were at my apartment one Saturday, watching a movie and eating pizza when someone knocked. I opened the door and found Naomi holding takeout from my favorite Thai place. She smiled like nothing was wrong. Then she saw Ruby on the couch, and something in her face changed for just a second. Not enough for a stranger to catch, but enough for me to feel it. She said she was in the area and thought I might want lunch. She stood there longer than she should have, waiting for an invitation that was never coming. Ruby looked at me afterward and asked, very calmly, whether Naomi knew what boundaries were. I said yes, I was wrong. The next thing she tried was public. In the lobby in front of coworkers, she walked up to me with a big smile and touched my arm like we were still close. She said we should catch up soon because she never saw me anymore. It was loud enough that other people heard. It was deliberate. I could see it. She was building a version of our relationship that sounded harmless, even warm, while I was trying to step away from it. That was when I blocked her on everything. For 2 weeks, I thought maybe that would be the end of it. It was not. It was the beginning of the part that made me genuinely afraid. A coworker named Marissa pulled me aside and asked if I knew Naomi in facilities. Her expression was careful, which made my stomach drop before she even said anything. She told me a rumor was going around that I had been harassing a woman in the building, following her around, showing up at her desk, making comments. I felt cold all over. I told her it was completely false. I had not been speaking to Naomi at work. I had been actively avoiding her floor. Marissa believed me, but she also told me that even a false rumor can damage you in a field like ours. She was right. In aviation, reputation is currency. If people think you are a liability, they do not wait around to find out the truth. They quietly move on without you, so I started documenting everything, every text, every call, every date, every weird timing coincidence. I backed up screenshots. I wrote timelines. I asked Scott, Ruby, and Marissa to write down what they had seen. Ruby immediately understood what was happening. She had dealt with something similar before, so she did not waste time panicking. She made a shared folder, locked down her accounts, and told me to stop engaging completely. Then the vandalism started. My motorcycle was first. The front tire was slashed. Then the left side was keyed so deeply that the body shop estimate made my stomach turn. Then someone poured something on the seat at 2 in the morning. Scott and I installed cameras after that, and one of them caught a figure in a dark hoodie near the bike. The face was not perfectly clear, but the build, the walk, and the jacket matched Naomi. The next morning, there was a note tucked under my mirror. Miss me yet? I do not need to tell you how that felt. I took the footage, the note, the screenshots, and the timeline to the police. I also met with a lawyer named Caleb, who told me very bluntly that people like this usually do not stop on their own. He helped me file for protective order and sent a cease and desist. That made things worse, not better. A few days later, a text came from a number I did not recognize. You really think a piece of paper is going to make me go away after everything I did for you? After how much I supported you? You will regret this. I forwarded it immediately. Then the attacks shifted again. A fake LinkedIn profile. A bogus ethics complaint at work. An anonymous tip claiming I had a conflict of interest with a vendor representative, which was nonsense because I barely interacted with anyone outside my team. HR called me in. I brought everything with me, the timeline, the police report, the cease and desist, the screenshots. They still had to investigate, but at least I was not walking in blind. The hardest part was not the paperwork. It was the feeling that my life was being edited behind my back. People at work started acting strange. Some avoided me. Some looked at me like they were trying to decide what version of the story to believe. That kind of uncertainty is poison in a professional environment. It makes you feel like you are standing on ice that may crack at any moment. Then came the parking deck confrontation. Naomi was waiting by the elevator bank when I was leaving work one evening. She blocked the path to my car and told me we needed to talk. I told her no. I told her we were done. She accused me of sending lawyers after her. She said she had been there for me when nobody else was. She stepped closer and I stepped back. She said I did not get to replace her and pretend she did not exist. That was the moment everything changed. I called security. She stared at me with this look I will never forget, something ugly and wounded at the same time. Then she turned and walked away like I had somehow wronged her by refusing to be controlled. The next day, gym incident happened too. Ruby saw Naomi sitting across the room and watching her without using any equipment. Naomi had also asked the front desk about Ruby's schedule under a fake story. By then, the pattern was impossible to deny. The hearing for the protective order was in early November. Naomi showed up with a lawyer and tried to paint me as an obsessive ex who could not handle rejection. Caleb laid out everything in order. The texts, the timing, the note, the camera footage, the fake accounts, the false complaint, the gym incident, the parking deck confrontation. The judge asked Naomi directly if she had created the burner accounts. She refused to answer. He asked if she had been at the gym. She admitted she had. The order was granted. I felt relief, but not peace. The civil case came after that. The motorcycle repairs, the legal costs, the damage to my reputation at work, all of it added up. She settled out of court and paid what she owed through the attorneys. I never spoke to her again. The aftermath was strange. Some people apologized. Some stayed quiet. A few mutual friends acted like they were just now discovering gravity. Ruby stayed steady through all of it. She did not ask me to be grateful for her support. She just gave it. Scott kept reminding me that I had not done anything wrong by moving on. Marissa quietly made sure the right people at work understood the truth. I sat with that for a long time. What hurt most was not just the vandalism or the lies. It was what it meant. Naomi had never wanted a friendship. She wanted access without responsibility. She wanted the comfort of knowing I was there while also keeping me from building a life that did not include her. I think that is why it felt so violating when she finally snapped. It was not just rejection. It was a loss of control. Grief is strange. It does not always look the way you expect. Sometimes it looks like anger. Sometimes it looks like entitlement. Sometimes it looks like someone deciding that if they cannot have you, they will make sure nobody else can either. I also had to face my own part in it. I was too polite for too long. I kept trying to preserve a friendship that had already stopped being mutual. I thought patience would make me kind. Instead, it gave her room to keep rewriting the rules. If I could go back, I would have drawn the line much earlier and much more clearly. Not because I caused what happened, but because I should have protected myself sooner. What I learned is that being nice is not the same as being safe. Being understanding is not the same as being available. And being someone's backup plan is not a compliment. It is a trap. I also learned something about Ruby that I will never forget. She did not try to save me by taking over my life. She helped me document, helped me stay calm, and helped me see that this was not my shame to carry. That mattered more than I can explain. When someone is trying to make you doubt your own reality, having one person stand beside you and say, "No, this is real," can change everything. I want to give you an update because a lot has changed. Ruby and I moved in together about 6 months after the hearing. We picked a place with better security and cameras that actually covered the parking lot. My career recovered, which I am still grateful for because I know it could have gone very differently. The ethics complaint was found to be baseless, and the people who mattered at work knew the truth. That does not mean the damage disappeared overnight. It just means I was able to keep going. Naomi has not contacted me since the order went into effect. I do not know where she is now, and I do not want to know. Some mutual friends eventually reached out to apologize. Some did not. That is fine. I have learned that not every relationship deserves a long explanation. Scott finally got the dog he had been talking about for years. Ruby still beats him at video games whenever she feels like it. And me, I am a lot less willing to confuse access with affection. I still believe in friendship. I still believe in patience. But I do not believe in ignoring patterns just because the person showing them once made me feel important. So I have to ask you this. If someone says they only want friendship, but their behavior keeps trying to keep you emotionally trapped, do you owe them more patience, or do you owe yourself a harder boundary? Because I still think about it. And I genuinely do not know if I made the right call by waiting as long as I did. Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, you already know what to do.